Have you ever looked at your savings account and felt like you were trying to fill the Grand Canyon with a tiny plastic teaspoon? You have worked hard all month, and you have skipped the expensive lunches, and you have avoided the weekend trips with your friends. And yet, when you log into your banking app, you see a number like $847. Instead of feeling proud of yourself, you just feel defeated and empty. You have been living like a financial monk for months on end, cutting out every little joy, like that extra cup of coffee or that subscription you actually enjoyed. And for what exactly? You are looking at a pile of cash that could not even cover a new set of tires for your car, let alone make you feel wealthy or secure. Meanwhile, you see your friend who saves absolutely nothing, and they just bought a brand new luxury watch or a high-end gaming console, and they seem 10 times happier than you are right now. You start asking yourself this same dangerous question over and over again. What is the actual point of all this sacrifice? Why am I torturing myself and living such a restricted life for a tiny pile of cash that feels as useless as a paper umbrella in the middle of a massive hurricane? Welcome to Nick's Formula, where we ignore the boring fluff and look at the cold, hard logic of why money behaves the way it does.
I am Nick, and I spend most of my time trying to figure out why smart people make terrible financial decisions that keep them stuck for years. If you have ever felt like your savings account is just a place where your money goes to die slowly and meaninglessly, then you need to pay very close attention to what I am about to tell you. There is a brutal truth that most financial gurus will never admit to you, because it sounds discouraging. But understanding it is the only way to break free. Saving money before you hit the $10,000 mark does not feel like building wealth, because it is not building wealth yet. It is simply playing defense against a world that is actively trying to rob you every single day. When you have less than $10,000, every single dollar in your possession is acting as a shield rather than a seed. You are not thinking about growth or compound interest or long-term prosperity because you are stuck in a state of pure survival. You are constantly worried about the next thing that will go wrong. Will this be enough if my car breaks down tomorrow? What if my landlord decides to raise the rent? Or what if I lose my job next week? This defensive mindset is absolutely exhausting because it is rooted in deep-seated fear. And fear is a terrible long-term motivator for anything meaningful. The real reason early-stage saving feels so incredibly brutal is what I like to call financial whack-a-mole.
You work hard and you save up $300, but then suddenly, boom, your car needs a minor repair, and that money is gone. You scrape together another $500 over 2 months of hard work, and then poof, your phone screen shatters and you are back to zero. This is not investing in your future. It is just paying the mandatory subscription fee for existing as an adult human being in the modern world. Your brain is much smarter than you give it credit for, and it knows exactly what is happening. Your mind is too intelligent to be fooled by small wins that do not actually change your life. It knows that $400 in a bank account is not going to change your social status, or your security, or your lifestyle. So instead of feeling a sense of accomplishment, you feel like you are just playing a game of pretend. You feel like a child playing with toy money while the real world continues to move on without you. But there is a specific magic number where this entire psychological dynamic flips on its head, and that number is exactly $10,000. Before you reach $10,000, you are vulnerable to every tiny bump in the road. An unexpected bill is a crisis, and a missed paycheck is a catastrophe. But once you cross that line, something fundamental changes in the way your brain processes the concept of money. You move from the vulnerability zone into the stability zone.
The reason saving feels useless right now is because you haven't reached the point where the money has enough weight to actually hold you down in a storm. Think of it like a heavy anchor. A 10-pound anchor will not hold a large ship in place during a gale, but a 1,000-pound anchor will. Right now, your savings are too light to provide any real stability, so every wave of life tosses you around and makes you feel like you are making zero progress. Most people give up on their financial journey because they save consistently for 6 months and they reach maybe $3,000. And then they realize they don't feel any different inside. They still feel stressed and they still feel broke. So they decide to just spend the money and enjoy the moment instead. They quit right before the psychological breakthrough happens. It is exactly like working out at the gym for 2 months and quitting because you don't have a six-pack of abdominal muscles yet, even though your internal health is improving every day. The first $10,000 is the hardest money you will ever save in your entire life because it offers the least amount of immediate gratification. It requires the most work for the least visible result. But I promise you that once you cross that specific threshold, saving becomes exponentially easier for you, not just because of the math or the compound interest, but because your very identity begins to shift.
You stop being someone who is struggling to save, and you become a person who is objectively good with money. This change in identity is the most powerful wealth-building tool you will ever possess. When you see 5 figures in your account, you start to make different choices. You don't buy things on credit because you know you have the cash, and you don't feel the need to show off because you have the internal security of knowing you are prepared for whatever comes next. You stop reacting to life and you start responding to it. The person with $1,000 in the bank is constantly looking over their shoulder, waiting for the next disaster to strike. The person with $10,000 is looking forward at the next opportunity to grow. This is the defensive phase of Nick's formula. And while it feels like you are walking through deep mud, it is the only way to get to the solid ground where you can finally start to run. You have to accept that for a while it is going to feel useless, and it is going to feel boring, and it is going to feel like a waste of time. But every single dollar you add to that pile is another layer of armor you are putting on. You are building the foundation of a fortress that will eventually protect you for the rest of your life. Do not let the smallness of the beginning trick you into thinking the ending won't be massive. You are currently in the most important phase of the entire process, because this is where your character is built and where your discipline is tested. If you can make it to 10,000, you can make it to 100,000. And if you can make it there, you can make it. The psychological shift that happens in your mind the moment you cross the $10,000 threshold is so incredibly dramatic that it essentially turns you into a completely different version of yourself. This is the exact moment in the formula where your money stops being purely defensive and finally starts going on the offense. You have to realize that $10,000 is a very specific milestone because it is finally enough capital to handle almost any standard life emergency without wiping you out or sending you back to zero. It is enough of a cushion to allow you to take a calculated risk, or invest in a new professional skill, or jump on a sudden business opportunity that you would have had to ignore just a few months ago. For the first time in your adult life, you stop asking yourself, how do I avoid a total disaster? And you start asking yourself, how do I grow this pile into something even bigger? This mental shift changes every single thing about your daily existence because you are no longer operating from a place of constant scarcity and panic.
Most people fail and give up on their dreams because they save diligently for half a year and they reach maybe $3,000 or $4,000, and then they realize that they do not actually feel any different or any wealthier than they did before. They decide to quit right before the major psychological breakthrough happens. It is exactly like the person who goes to the gym every single day for 2 months and stops going because they do not see a six-pack of muscles in the mirror yet, even though their heart and lungs and metabolism are becoming stronger every single hour. You must understand that the first $10,000 is the hardest and most painful money you will ever have to save in your entire lifetime because it offers the absolute least amount of immediate gratification. You are putting in maximum effort for what feels like a very minimal visible result. But I promise you with absolute certainty that once you cross that specific $10,000 barrier, the act of saving and investing becomes exponentially easier for you to maintain. This is not just because of the mathematical magic of compound interest or market returns, although those certainly help over time. The real reason it becomes easier is because your internal identity has fundamentally shifted. You have officially transitioned from being someone who is merely trying to save money into becoming a person who is objectively good with money.
You can see the evidence of your discipline every time you look at your account balance. This change in identity is the most powerful wealth-building tool you will ever possess in your entire life. When you see 5 figures sitting in your account, you start making fundamentally different choices in your day-to-day life. You no longer feel the desperate need to buy things on credit just to keep up with appearances, because you have the deep internal security of knowing that you are actually prepared for whatever the world throws at you next. You stop reacting to life like a victim, and you start responding to it like a leader. The person with only $1,000 in the bank is constantly looking over their shoulder, waiting for the next small tragedy to strike and ruin their week. But the person with $10,000 is looking straight ahead at the next opportunity to expand their empire. You have moved out of the vulnerability zone and into the stability zone. In the stability zone, you have the luxury of breathing room. You have the ability to say no to a toxic job or a bad deal because you are not living one paycheck away from being out on the street. This freedom is the first real taste of what financial independence actually feels like. It is not about the yachts or the mansions yet. It is about the quiet peace of mind that comes from knowing you have bought yourself some time.
This identity drives every single financial decision you will make for the rest of your natural life. The people who successfully break this $10,000 barrier are the ones who treat it like an escape fund rather than just a simple savings account. They understand that they are not just hoarding cash, they are buying their own freedom and agency in a world that wants to keep them dependent.